Hey guys, back here for part two, step two. This image is actually called Conjurer of Death. And like I said in the previous video, if you watched that, with this particular image, I had this all done. I even ordered proofs from the print on demand company, and it didn't turn out good. So we're redoing the image, but there were a lot of things that I did in the original image that I really want to keep, and I really want to keep going with what I've got going on. I just noticed that there might be something I want to take out, do a little object remove on up here. I guess not. It's just a kind of a little light burst, which is fine. I think we're okay. So I won't worry about that. What I'm going to do is, excuse me, Whew. I am going to go into, where is it? Maybe it's under enhance, or maybe it's under effects. Hmm. Put under color. Yes, color replace. There we go. So it's under color. We're going to do color replace. And to be honest with you, I didn't do it this way the first time around. So I'm not sure what the tolerance does here, but it was at 20. So I think we'll leave it at 20. And if we show affected areas, that's going to affect a lot. So we can't do it that way. Um, so apparently this color is so ingrained in this particular um, image that it's not something that we can do. So we will do it the other way. And I have to remember how I did it the last time. Um, I believe it's in design, and we're going to have to do a selection, and then we're going to use the paint bucket to get the color that I want. But I got to get him zoomed up quite a bit because uh, it's just not going to work if I don't get just the cape. So we're going to go over here, and this is our brush, uh, manual brush selection. And I'm going to try the auto. Nope, see how it did? That's because it's trying to pull by color. So I'm going to hit the escape button and we'll get out of there. And this, we'll try the smart brush selection. And nope, no good there. So we're going to have to do it manually. And wow, that thing was huge. I'm glad I noticed that. Still way too big. So we'll go up here and we'll start the ants marching. I actually want to be, I gotta zoom up a little bit more, I think. Uh, let's try 400. This guy's just so small in this picture because I want to leave like a edge to him. So in other words, I don't want the color to overlap, and I'm not sure I'm going to get, because if the color overlaps outside of the edge of the robe, it's going to end up giving a halo. And so even along the shadow here, I'm kind of being careful to make sure that we leave some of that there. And I'm going to have to go back around and clean this up just a little bit. Oops, yep, right there. And then you get the old man twitch going on there. But, and like I've said before, doing this with a mouse may not be the most opportune way to do it. Um, I do know that some of those drawing pads where you actually kind of have a pen in your hand and you're doing it, probably a better way to go. But like I said in a previous video, the budget's just not allowing for it right now. So I haven't even looked to see how expensive they are. I don't know. They may not be that expensive. But I would want to make sure that I got something decent because I do a lot of image editing, not as much as I want to, because I'm so focused on the social media aspect of everything right now. But eventually, I'm going to get to the point where I want to do a lot more image editing. So, and I'm using the Alt key here um, because there's not a negative option in this particular mode. So you've got to do it one at a time to get these little buggers back in their spots. And I think all in all, it's probably pretty good, just like that. So what I'm going to do now in this section is actually I'm going to go up and get the skeleton's hood as well because I kind of want these two colors to speak out the same type of thing. And I'm not going to be too gracious on this guy because the hood is not well defined up here. It's just not. So this will be a much quicker process than the sorcerer's robe, if you will. But we'll get him all in there like that, and then we're going to have to back out of the zoom a little bit so we can maybe see both, kind of. Okay, we can kind of see both. Then we're going to go over to the bucket fill, and I actually want a nice dark blue. That might be a little bit too dark. So I'm going to bring it up just a little bit with the slider and click OK. And then the blending mode is interesting because they have all these different blending modes, but we can actually look at them um, once we've got what we're looking for. And I'm going to turn the opacity down to about 60 um, and see what kind of a color we get here. So the color's a little bit dark for what I want. And it doesn't look like it's going to automatically change. So we're going to have to kind of play around with these. Um, undo that. I'll put it on dissolve. See, it's got, I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's like speckled. That's no good. Um, let me try darken. Maybe, maybe not. Try multiply. All right, how come I'm getting nothing on him? Let's try lighten. That's a little bit closer to what I wanted. And if you click it more than once, you're actually getting more and more color added to it. So I want to back that out. What I really want to kind of see is the light, vivid light. What does that give us? And again, we're not getting any color on him. And I'm not sure why. Well, maybe it is changing the color. It's just so hard to see down there that it's just not doing it. How about linear light? It's not going to work for me either. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to normal and we'll see. I'm going to play with the tolerance a little bit. And I wish you didn't have to do it this way. I want it to kind of cover it up, but I don't want it to be too like out there in terms of the color itself. So I think I need to darken the color a little bit. So we'll come back into the color and darken her up a little bit. And then we'll turn our opacity up to 80%. That I think is a little bit more what I'm looking for. So we'll zoom back out. Yeah, I think that's good right there. So that's how we do that. I mean, just to play with the color of a specific part of the image, just a small part, but I wanted it to be something different. So I'm going to go back into guided, um, and I am going to go into the adjustments, and I'm going to play with the white balance just to see what kind of stuff we get here. The blue is like super blue. That's kind of cool. Play with the tint a little bit. That's kind of cool. Now remember, I play with those because I can get those kind of results down by using color further down in the system here. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to play with the sharpness and the clarity. And the main thing I'm worried about is this and this, um, because that's what turns out super wiry. See how like I don't even know how to explain it. This, like these sticks almost sticking up out of the ground. And I don't really care for that. See, now if I take the sharpness up, look at what happens. The sticks become more sticky, and all these like lines just stick out like crazy in these swirls, and I don't want that. But I also know that I can add a little bit of sharpness to it, and I can crank the radius up. And then I can use the edge mask somewhat, not very much. That kind of softens it up a little bit. But as I bring in more sharpness, let's focus on the skeleton here. So I bring in the sharpness, just goes kind of crazy. So there's certain images you really want a lot of sharpness in, and there's other images that you don't want a lot of sharpness in. Now, I'm going to play a little bit with the dehaze. Because remember, that's kind of brightening and darkening. And I just want to see what it's going to do to that stringiness that I don't want. If it's going to blur some of it out, I'm okay with it being a little darker because I can lighten it up in a different way. But it's not going to do much anything in terms of that. So I'm going to go up to clarity and see what we get out of clarity. See, now if we move the clarity down, that does soften it up quite a bit, which makes me happy. I like the clarity being able to soften it up. See how stringy and just wiry it feels there, and then we bring it down. And it kind of blurs out some of that little background stuff. And it just kind of makes it a little softer on the edges. See, even this stuff down here behind our wizard there, if we go too high on the clarity, it almost looks like railroad tracks, and we don't want that. We want it to be kind of ethereal and kind of cloudy and, that type of thing. But I don't think I want it all the way up. And then we can go back and use the dehaze a little bit to see if that helps or hurts in any way, shape, or form. And this is already a pretty dark photo, so a pretty dark image. So I don't think if I zoom back out and use the dehaze, it gives it a really cool look. But, print wise, is that going to be so dark? So I think I'm just going to put like 10 on the dehaze just to give it a little bit. And then I'm going to mess with the contrast. And I want to be zoomed back up on our guy again, our Skeletor, or Death, as we call him. And we're going to play with the contrast a little bit, because again, I don't want him being all stringy, or overly stringy, I guess is the way to put it. So if we put a little bit of contrast in there, it softens it up a little bit more. Check out the rocks. So I'm going to put a little bit of contrast there. Don't know that I need exposure, but I kind of want to check it out. Obviously, if we do negative exposure, we can pretty much blacken the whole picture out. But you don't want to do a ton of exposure. Exposure works really quickly, like really quickly. I'm at 0.33, and I could crank it up quite a bit more than that. And while I think it looks cool, I don't want it to be overdone. There I'm at 0.13, which is not very much. I'm not sure what this is over here. And this honestly will be gone. I know from the size of this that when I blow it up to 20 by 30 and I blow it up for print, it's going to cut off the edges in order to make it fit properly in that framing. Um, but yeah, I think the 1.3 is pretty good. So that's, clarity, contrast, sharpness, exposure. Plus, we did a little side thing here with making the blue on the cape and the hood. And that's going to do it for this video, guys. I will be back on the next one. I'm going to save this, jump out of it, and I will be back and we will play more with the coloration and decide whether we're going to split this image in two in order to color it into layers, like we did on the last video, both with Demon Mage and with Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. So catch me on the next one, guys, and remember, let the chaos out. Become creative.